Hello and a warm welcome. You joined us on Market Cafe right here on ET Now. I'm Ashesha Adwaryu, and first up, let's take a look at how US markets ended in trade yesterday. And clearly, it turned out to be a weak session for Wall Street yesterday. We had Dow Jones, which ended with some bit of negative bias, and AI stocks extended correction on account of the correction that we're seeing globally in AI-related stocks. Chip weakness accelerated, and that some effect of that is seen on Asian markets this morning. We had S&P 500, which ended 0.2% lower in trade yesterday, and Nasdaq 100 also ended nearly 1.5% fall in yesterday's trading session. So AI and technology-related stocks were under pressure, and that seemed to have had some pressure on the Nasdaq index yesterday. So US markets clearly were under pressure in yesterday's trading session. Meanwhile, let's also take a look at how Asian markets have opened this morning, and it is turning out to be a mixed picture. We have Shanghai that is down 0.6%. Hang Seng on the flip side is surging 1.5% in today's trading session. But Nikkei, that's the Japanese market, that index is also sitting with a cut of nearly 1% this morning. So mixed picture coming in for Asian markets this morning, but Nifty implied open is suggesting a 80-point uptick for Indian equity markets. Perhaps we could see some bit of respite in today's trading session after the kind of rally that we saw yesterday. Let's also shift focus to commodity markets then, and after the cool off that we have seen over the last few trading sessions, Brent crude is now trading at that $70.9 per barrel mark. It is below that $71 per barrel mark, which implies a significant 25 to 28% decline as compared to the recent highs of about $105 that we had seen for Brent crude at the peak of geopolitical uncertainty. So clearly Brent crude prices have cooled off, and that seems to be accelerating in today's trading session. We have spot gold, which is trading below $4,100 an ounce, and spot silver too has fallen below $60 an ounce. Remember, after the staggering rally that we had seen in calendar year 2025, precious metals have cooled off quite a bit, and that also is accelerating over the last few trading sessions, with gold now below $4,100 an ounce. But shifting focus to a couple of other global stories then, and the latest round of US-Iran indirect talks in Doha have concluded without a breakthrough on a lasting peace deal. Negotiations focused on technical issues, including shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and the release of Iran's frozen assets, while discussions on Tehran's nuclear program have been deferred to a later stage. US President Donald Trump maintained his stance that Iran has been denuclearized, which has been the objective always. Listen into what US President Donald Trump had to say.
As far as things are going, the denuclearization of Iran is moving along well. They've had very good meetings, and we'll see. We hit them very hard for 3 nights, as you know, but we're getting along very well. So I call it the denuclearization, and it's all taking place. It's all going well. The stock market is setting records virtually every day. The oil price is way down. We're down at 68. I see it hit 68 today. That's lower than when I started the, I guess you could call it an attack on Iran, so that they never have a nuclear weapon. So the oil price is now lower. The retail prices, the gasoline is coming down rapidly.
Okay, so that's the word coming in from US President Donald Trump. But meanwhile, Fed Chairperson Kevin Warsh struck a measured but hawkish tone, saying inflation risks have eased over the last 1 month, but reaffirmed that Fed's commitment to restore 2% inflation continues to remain intact. He also ruled out giving any guidance on the July policy meeting, stressed the Fed's independence from political pressure, and also signaled sweeping changes to the central bank's communication framework. Listen into what he had to say.
I'll say this. Expectations of inflation over the first 4 months, first 4 weeks of this period, they've come down. Inflation risks have come down. Again, in our business, we don't want to overdetermine things. But if there were people in household or the business sector and the financial markets who thought that this central bank was going to be comfortable with an inflation objective above 2%, well, I guess they'd be disappointed. We're going to deliver price stability in the U.S. That's what this committee has signed up to do. And our objective is to do that. The tactics, the strategy, and the rest, that's still to come.
And Kevin Walsh also said that AI boom is becoming increasingly visible across the U.S. economy, driving productivity gains and supporting economic growth. However, he cautioned that there are still important questions around when AI's impact on jobs will become more pronounced. Listen into what he had to say.
And the other piece that I'll take note of, which shows some difference, I think, among our nations, is the AI boom is showing itself first and very prominently in the United States. I'd certainly rather have this problem where we have massive capital expenditures instead of thinking years back where we had financial engineering, where we had companies that weren't able to deliver profits, so they would do shareholder buybacks. Well, right now they're investing in the future because their expectation is that the supply side of the economy will expand. And if it does, that has huge implications for monetary policy. But again, I'm not going to make a judgment now. We'll meet again in 4 weeks. But this is as exciting a time and also as a consequential a time to be a central banker that I can think of at any point, maybe outside of a crisis in my adult lifetime.
And shifting focus to the U.S. economy then, fresh U.S. employment development data to a moderation in hiring. According to the latest ADP report, private sector employment increased by 98,000 jobs in the month of June, falling short of market expectations of 120,000. The softer than expected payroll numbers came at a time when investors are closely assessing the health of the U.S. labor market for cues on the Federal Reserve's next policy move. And the June U.S. jobs report could surprise on the upside. That's the word coming in from Goldman Sachs, which is now estimating that the FIFA World Cup may have added around 40,000 jobs. Hiring linked to hospitality and event-related services is expected to support payrolls, with Goldman forecasting about 140,000 jobs above street expectations of about 115,000. And Meta surged nearly 9% in trade yesterday after reports that the company is building a cloud business to monetize excess AI computing capacity surfaced. The move could generate fresh revenue from billions of dollars invested in AI infrastructure, while easing investor concerns over Meta's aggressive capital expenditure plans continue to accelerate. And SoftBank has revived talks for a $10 billion loan that is backed by its stake in OpenAI, adding a corporate guarantee to reassure lenders. This financing is aimed at supporting SoftBank's aggressive AI investment strategy after banks previously raised concerns over lending against privately valued assets. And shifting focus back to India then, Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi is in India for a bilateral summit with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The visit will focus on strengthening strategic and economic ties, with discussions expected on semiconductors, defense, clean energy, critical minerals, AI, and the Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train project. Sumita is now joining us with more details on this.
That's right. Japan's PM Sanae Takichi arrived in India late last evening. Today, she's going to be attending the Japan-India summit. Along with the meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the two sides are also going to be meeting business leaders because a huge delegation is coming in from Japan. Over 100 leaders are going to be present in that meeting. Remember, this visit is coming amidst rising geopolitical tensions globally, geoeconomic concerns globally as well. So, of course, Japan is looking to strengthen ties with regional partners, and that includes India. So, of course, what could be expected? A ceremonial reception, a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, an MOU exchange is going to be taking place, and, of course, a business forum that is slated to happen today afternoon or early evening. Remember, this visit also follows Prime Minister Narendra Modi's trip to Tokyo last year, when Japan pledged to more than double its investments in India to more than $61 billion over the next decade. So what are going to be the areas of cooperation and interest that will be discussed? Now, as far as cooperation is concerned, remember, Japan is amongst India's largest foreign investors. You do have about 1,400 Japanese companies reportedly that are operating in India, and some of them are, nearly half of them rather, are in manufacturing. So, of course, AI is going to be on top of the agenda, semiconductor manufacturing cooperation in general, critical minerals and supply chain cooperation, energy security again is a key area, defense cooperation. Now, Japan also eased restrictions on exports of defense equipment. So, of course, that is going to be looked at as well. When we talk about economic cooperation, remember, you do have Tokyo Electron and Tata Electronics Private Limited. Both of them signed an MOU for semicon collaboration. Japan's MUFG also acquired a 20% stake in Sriram Finance. So, of course, all of these synergies exist. But how can they be further elevated? That will be discussed today.
Sumita, thank you so much for joining us with that. But let's move on then. And Star Health Insurance is partnering with Amplify Health to deploy an AI-led claim intelligence platform across its health insurance operations. The 3-year partnership aims to improve the claims governance, speed up cashless claim approvals, and strengthen fraud detection. The AI platform will use machine learning, clinical intelligence, and generative AI to identify irregular billings, duplicate claims, and unusual claim patterns in real time. Star Health says that the technology will help reduce waiting time for pre-authorizations and discharge while improving the overall customer experience. Now, the partnership also includes healthcare analytics to support wellness and preventive health initiatives. And ET Now has accessed letters sent by the government to Meta platforms. Government fears that feature may increase incident of online fraud, phishing, and digital arrest scams. Sumita is getting us more details on that.
Absolutely. As far as Meta versus the center matter is concerned, in fact, the center has asked Meta to furnish a detailed explanation on the feature that's related to users actually using the feature of their numbers within 3 days. And in fact, this letter, which has been sent by the government to Meta platforms, has been accessed by ET Now, wherein the government is telling Meta that the feature may materially increase the incident of online fraud, phishing, digital arrest scams, and impersonation attacks. It also tells Meta that this feature could enable bad actors to solicit and message victims. It also says that this feature may facilitate impersonation and identity spoofing, it including the impersonation of individuals, public authorities, and financial institutions. It also says that this feature may lead to the incident of cyber crimes. In fact, the government says that since WhatsApp is an intermediary and a significant social media intermediary, it is subject to due diligence. So, of course, that is the letter that's been sent by the government to Meta platforms. It is seeking an explanation on the feature. In fact, one of the most important things that the government has told Meta is that it should have consulted. There should be, consultation process over this feature. And it has, in fact, directed Meta to not roll out the feature until the consultation process is over. Remember, this is coming in even as there's official scrutiny over WhatsApp's new feature and its implications on user identification, on platform safety as well, because several reports have claimed that this new feature could be linked to impersonation and misuse through username-based communication. Now, let's understand the most important aspect of this letter that's been sent by the government. It says that there should be extensive consultation. Remember, because the government, in the past policy moves that we've also seen, there's been extensive consultation on any of the policies that have been rolled out, whether it is, gaming laws, whether it is the DPDP Act. Extensive consultations happened and the feedback was then incorporated. So this is essentially what the government's approach is with respect to this particular matter as well. And of course, WhatsApp has now been asked to furnish a response within 3 days of receiving this letter.
And moving on then, the IMD has projected below normal rainfall for July, with precipitation likely to be less than 94% of the long period average. Even as the monsoon is set to advance across north and northwest India over the next 2 days, Mumbai remains under an orange alert till the 5th of July, with heavy rainfall expected to continue. Akanksha is joining us with the weather updates.
Well, as the country begins the second day of July, the India Meteorological Department has projected below normal rainfall for the month. According to IMD's monthly outlook, rainfall during July is likely to remain below 94% of long period average. Meanwhile, the IMD has extended the orange alert for Mumbai till July 5 as the city continues to witness heavy rainfall. Now on Wednesday, Colaba reported 69.6 mm of rainfall, while Santa Cruz received 96.3 mm of rainfall. The weather department says monsoon conditions are favorable for further advance into more parts of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi, Punjab and Rajasthan over the next 2 days. The IMD has also forecast extremely heavy rainfall over central Maharashtra, South Gujarat, Konkan region till Sunday.
along with thunderstorms, lightning and gusty winds across the parts of north, east and central India. Now let's also take a quick look at the rainfall deficit across the country. So east and northeast India is facing 40% rainfall deficit, followed by northwest, which is facing 30%. Central India is facing the highest deficit of 45%. South Peninsula is facing 26%. So overall, India is currently facing a rainfall deficit at around 38%, according to India Meteorological Department.
All right, with that, it's time for us to slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. On to metals Q1 updates. We have Coal India, JTL Industries and NMDC on our radar. What have the companies really reported? My colleague Ashesha is now joining us with the fine print. Over to you, Ashesha.
Well, yes, first up, let's start with Coal India, which has reported weak operational data. If we compare the data on a year-on-year basis, production has seen a decline of about 1%. In fact, offtake has seen a decline of as much as 8% on a year-on-year basis. But the silver lining over here is that inventory has fallen, and that is a big positive. Inventory is now comfortable at about 14 days versus long-term average of 13 days, and hence this is likely to be a positive for Coal India. Now, MK has come out with a report, and they are saying that they expect production to revive in FY27, and they are forecasting output to increase to about 815 million tons in FY27, which is a significant growth as compared to FY26 levels. Other than that, Coal India will also be in focus on the back of an order win. The company has informed the exchanges that they've bagged an order worth about 2,830 crore. So keep an eye out on Coal India, both on the back of operational data as well as on the back of this order win. Meanwhile, JTL Industries has also reported strong data. Domestic growth this time around was very strong for this one. We have sales volumes which have risen by 18% on a year-on-year basis. Robust demand and improved capacity utilization aided numbers for JTL Industries in the first quarter. Other than that, exports market also contributed. Management said that they are expanding customer relationships and sustained demand. These were the two factors which drove export demand. So contribution came in not only from domestic but also from exports, and that is what aided 18% growth on a year-on-year basis for JTL Industries. Lastly, let's talk about NMDC. On the production front, iron ore production has risen by 11%. And we also have sales which have risen meaningfully this time around. So very strong operational data that NMDC has reported. Keep an eye out on this counter as well.
All right, Ashesha, thank you so much for joining us. But let's also talk about other stocks that will be in focus in today's trading session. And for that, my colleague Meryl is now joining us with all the stocks and news.
Yes, once again, we've got Coal India in focus today after the company secured a 2,831 crore order to set up a 600 megawatt plant in Uttar Pradesh. Now, the company has also reported healthy e-auction allocations for the month of June and the first quarter, further signaling steady demand momentum for the company. Aeroflex Industries is also on the radar today after further expanding production capacity for its liquid cooling SFN skid assemblies from 6,000 units annually to up to 9,000 units, starting with effect from the 1st of July. Now, also in the spotlight today is Tata Technologies. It will be watched after it's expanded its partnership with Tenneco under a strategic arrangement in an engagement valued at $100 million, focusing on the next-gen mobility solutions. Also in the spotlight today is Bharti Airtel after its Airtel Money has commenced operations as an NBFC, marking yet another step in expanding its financial services ecosystem. And we've got Hero MotoCorp in news today. It has announced a cumulative investments of exceeding 3,200 crores in the state of Andhra Pradesh, including a 750 crore towards setting up global parts centers at Tirupati. Netweb Technologies is also on the radar after its board has approved a fundraise of up to 1,200 crores in a mix of equity as well as debt, while NLC India has received a renewable energy, its renewable energy subsidiary, NLC India, has received an LOA of up to 300 megawatt solar projects in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And finally, we've got Sai Parenterals in focus after its subsidiary Nomad Pharmaceuticals has entered into an OTC medicine supply arrangement with one of Australia's leading pharmacy network in a contract value of up to 1,300 crores. So these are some of the stocks that we're expecting to see in the spotlight today on the back of news flow.
Right, Meryl, thank you so much for joining us with that. Let's talk about the banks that have kicked off their Q1 business update season with healthy loan growth despite the seasonality weak first quarter. While the advances remained robust and broadly in line with RBI trends, deposit growth lagged across most lenders, lending to a moderation in the loan-to-deposit ratios. Mithali is joining us with the updates.
Rightly said. So Q1 for the banks this quarter has stand out in terms of the credit growth as it remained resilient despite a weak seasonal quarter, that is first quarter of every financial year. But despite the mobilization, however, the continued to lag credit growth across most banks, keeping the loan to deposit ratios under pressure. Performance varied across banks, and if you see J&K Bank and Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, they emerged as standout performance for this quarter, while Canara Bank sustained the strong REM-led growth. Then Lakshmi Bank and South Indian Bank, they reported healthy business momentum, while talking about Punjab and Sindh Bank as well as South Indian Bank, they both lagged the peers. Then Lakshmi Bank, it posted an impressive set of numbers for this quarter with advances rising 26.5% and deposits up 17%. The highlight was a 76% surge in its gold loans and supported by 29% MSME-led growth. J&K Bank, it delivered one of the strongest updates for this quarter with loan growth of 25.5% yearly and deposit growth of 16.8%. However, their CASA ratio had declined by 360 basis points on a sequential basis. Moving now to Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, which was a standout performer in terms of sequential growth. Advances rose 27% yearly, while 7% sequential rise was seen, comfortably exceeding the management guidance, while deposits grew nearly 20%. Canara Bank, it continued its strong execution with advances growing nearly 18% yearly, led by 21% growth in its domestic RAM portfolio, while the deposits they increased 12%, trailing the credit growth. Moving now to South Indian Bank, which maintained the healthy business momentum, advances rising 17% and deposits up 11.4% yearly. In contrast, if you see for Punjab and Sindh Bank, it reported a softer quarter. The advances and deposits grew 19.5% and 12.2% yearly on a respective basis, but the sequential growth of around 1% pointed to a slower start for FY27. So overall, a very good set of numbers coming in for the banks for this quarter.
Thank you so much for joining us with that. All the banking updates, all the banking stocks will be in focus on the back of that as well. But with that, it's time to shut shop on this edition of Market Cafe. I'll take a leave. Thank you so much for tuning in, but don't go anywhere because the market is coming up next.